Going on the radio. Everybody, you're going on the Paradox radio show. It's gonna be fucking crazy. It's the illest. It's crazy. Love it.
What time do you leave tomorrow?
The 20th, I'm leaving at about 2:15.
From depression to cancer to
The crosses that exhibit the traits of the indica strains, because indicas make you want to lay down and sleep, and that's a very basic part of the healing process. So the effects produced by the so-called high of the indica is very desirable for healing. And this medicine, from our experience, it seems that it replaces practically all pharmaceuticals for all medical conditions, and it seems to work miracles on everything. We're treating Lou Gehrig's disease with great success, AIDS, we're curing multiple sclerosis, cancer, arthritis, diabetes, just on and on and on. Literally, this plant, the medicine it produces is truly a cure-all. And history calls it, all through history calls it a panacea, which means cure-all. So really, why should it surprise anybody that the essential oil, if properly made from good strains of the hemp, the indica varieties, it truly is a mother of all miracle drugs.
And anybody pretty much can make this, right?
Oh yes, it's just a matter of growing the plants, the high quality strains, and with our documentary, Run from the Cure, and if you go to PHEONIXTEARS.CA, the written recipes up there. So if you have a loved one who has cancer or any of these serious ailments, you have something you can do yourself. If you can get a pound of high quality hemp, all you need is a rice cooker, a measuring cup, a coffee warmer. Now these are everyday things that most households have. And if you have this, all you need really is the solvent and a pound of good high quality hemp. And if you have a pound of good bone dry hemp bud, in less than 4 hours usually the medicine is sitting there ready to take.
You mentioned Phoenix Tears. That's the name of your organization?
Well, Phoenix Tears is really an entity. I guess you'd have to say that I'm Phoenix Tears. I started calling it Phoenix Tears years ago. I was watching a Harry Potter movie, and Harry got bitten by the big snake, and then the Phoenix came in and shed the tears on Harry's wound and healed him, and it just hit me, Phoenix Tears. So I started calling it that, giving it that name. But there is no foundation. It is really, truly an entity. But my aim for this is to go out and produce this medicine on a grand scale, a huge scale, and then make the medicine available to people on a donation basis. That way, if you don't have the money, you still get the medicine. And people should not be dying because they can't afford the medicine they need. And unfortunately today in the medical system, what they give us, it doesn't work. I mean, who do you know that's getting healed? If you go out, it's all liver toxic chemicals, which means it's poison to our liver. And these doctors know this. Matter of fact, reading their Hippocratic Oath, it says, I shall not administer poison. So what does a Hippocratic Oath mean? And when it comes down to chemotherapy, radiation, CAT scans, all of that, chemotherapy is nothing but rank poison. I mean, why would anybody with a brain in their head think that taking enough poison to knock out their hair is going to help a medical condition? The best that can be said for, they both, chemo and radiation, they both take your immune system out, and it leaves you totally defenseless. And both of these treatments are carcinogenic. The medical system knows this. That means they cause cancer. So why do they use such treatments? It makes no sense. And what I see today is better in medicine. It could be better called madness, not medicine. I should have mentioned too about the CAT scans. Again, CAT scans, another massive dose of radiation, causes cells to mutate. That's what cancer is. So, the medical system to me really doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Well, let me take a moment to read a message for.
What's a 5-year plan? Even though I was grossed out because he's so old and he's hitting on me, I couldn't help but be impressed and confident. Really? So you're bossy like you, man. Never stop trying to pick up. Doesn't matter how old you are. The guy had a walker. He's like, come here.
Background on you're discovering the medicinal properties of cannabis.
Yes. Well, see, I mean, I'd heard about, well, originally, see, my cousin died from cancer in 1972 at the age of 25. I watched him go from about 200 pounds down to about 50 pounds when he died. About 3 years later, I worked at All Saints Hospital in Spring Hill, and I was leaving work, and it came on the Amherst radio station, this announcement. Of course, the guy was laughing like a fool, because every time the word marijuana is mentioned, you've got to make a big joke out of it, don't you? So this report comes on, THC, the active ingredient in marijuana, has been found to kill cancer cells. So, I mean, it stopped and made me think, and I had no use for hemp at the time. I thought, well, maybe it's good for something. Of course, at the time, I was a beer drinker. But all my friends, they all smoked pot, and, I mean, I didn't see any harm in it, and I still don't. But years go by, nothing happens, so I just thought it was just some kind of joke. But then in '97, I was injured at work with a bad head injury. I wound up with what they call post-concussion syndrome. And then about a year later, I was watching an episode on David Suzuki's show, The Nature of Things, called Reefer Madness 2. And it was all about marijuana and people using it, smoking it for their medical conditions, and it was truly working for them. So I went out and I got my hands on some marijuana and smoked it. Well, sure enough, it did more for me than anything the doctors were giving me. So I went right back and told them that. Of course, they wouldn't give me a prescription. It's bad for the lungs. It's still under study. One lie after another. But at that point, I mean, I still believed in the medical system, so I was still taking their chemicals. And then in 1999, I was in my doctor's office. I'd asked the doctor, every doctor I'd seen for a prescription, and nobody would give me one. So again, in '99, I was in my doctor's office, and I asked him for another prescription, and of course, he refused it. And then about that time, see, with my experience around the hospital, and I'm a power engineer by trade, but I had worked around stills and autoclaves, all kinds of equipment like that. So I looked at him and I said, what would you think if I took the hemp plant and produced the essential oil of the plant and ingested it, as opposed to smoking it? And he agreed. He said that would be a much more medicinal way to use it. Again, no prescription. So along about 2001, he called me into the office and he just told me point blank. He said, there's nothing more we can do for you. So you're on your own. So, of course, I had nowhere to turn. So the only thing I could do was get on the oil. So that made me an instant criminal. But that's what I did, and thank God I did, because at the time when they said that there was nothing more they could do for me, I mean, if you had seen me, my brain was not working. I was a chemical zombie. I couldn't remember anything. It was just horrible. But after a few, weeks on the oil or months, everybody around me seen the difference. And then in 2003, I went in to the doctor. I'd had these things, one by my eye, and I had one on my cheek and one on my chest. And I'd had these for years, and I used to call them barnacles. But, I suspected that they were cancer. So I went into my doctor's office, and he looked at them, and he said, I think it's skin cancer. And he said, the one close to your eye is the one I'm most concerned about, so we'll send you in and get that removed. So in January of 2003, I went in, and they removed this area close to my right eye. Surgically, yes. So about a week later, I was at home, and they'd scheduled me to go back for the other two, have the other two removed at a later date. So I was at home about a week after the operation, and I was looking at the area where they had operated, and of course it was infected, because it seems that pretty well everybody that ever had an operation in the Amherst Hospital winds up with infections. But, I mean, that's the brutal truth. But just as I was looking at it, that's when that report snapped back into my mind from the 70s, THC, the active ingredient in marijuana. Well, I looked at, I'd been making the oil that helped me sleep and that helped with my blood pressure and things for the post-concussion syndrome. And I thought, well, this oil is loaded with THC. So I almost didn't do it. I mean, because we all think that, if something this simple would work, well, of course they'd be using it, wouldn't they?
You'd think.
Yeah, you'd think. And so anyway, I went down to the bathroom and I put the oil on the skin cancer on my cheek and on my chest. 4 days later, I removed the bandages. Both were completely healed, gone completely, nothing but pink skin.